Amazon founder Jeff Bezos accusing the National Enquirer of blackmail and extortion. It is a shocking, a deeply personal post just published online. Went to the medium.com to post it. Could have done anything anywhere, but that is where Bezos chose to do this in this 9-page stunning document, writing that the National Enquirer's parent company has been threatening him with embarrassing pictures, which are detailed here in great detail. He puts it all out there. And he says that they will, quote, publish the personal photos unless I make the specific false public statement to the press that, quote, and this is in an email from the general counsel of the National Enquirer, that Bezos would need to say, quote, he has no knowledge or basis for suggesting that AMI's coverage was politically motivated or influenced by political forces. So that's in an email, that we won't publish the pictures as long as you say this, Jeff. Now, Bezos says he will not agree to that statement because it is a lie, and he references President Trump in this, who, of course, is a longtime personal friend with the founder of AMI, a founder who is now cooperating in the broader Russia investigation. Senior media reporter Oliver Darcy is out front. And Oliver, this post is extraordinary, right? I mean, it is an extraordinary set of information. He has put it all out there. You're not going to blackmail me because I'm going to put it out there. What more are we learning? Well,
like you said, this is explosive, and I think we need to take people back. So what happened here is the National Enquirer recently published that big expose showing that Mr. Bezos was having a romantic relationship with Lauren Sanchez, a TV anchor. And they published this investigation, and they have obtained, in the investigation, they obtained text messages. And so Bezos naturally wonders how his text messages got out there. How did they become public? And so he starts this investigation personally. He funds it into how these messages came into the possession of the National Enquirer. And so what you're seeing here is the lawyers, I guess, for the National Enquirer or the parent company AMI reaching out to Mr. Bezos and saying that if he does not stop his investigation into how these messages came to light, they will make more of the material they have public, risky pictures and things that Mr. Bezos probably doesn't want out there. They'll make them public. And Bezos is saying in this Medium post that he's not going to sit back and allow himself to be blackmailed by AMI. And he, like you said, detailed everything in this shocking, really, Medium post.
And look, I just want to make a point here, right? You're talking about the National Enquirer owned, the person in charge there is David Pecker, longtime associate of Donald Trump's. Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post, which the president regularly pillories for its coverage and says he wants to stop. Mm-hmm. These are all the strands that could be coming together here, that Bezos is alleging could be coming together here. And he specifically says certain powerful people who experience Washington Post news coverage will wrongly conclude I am their enemy. President Trump is one of those people, obvious by his many tweets. Also, the Post's essential and unrelenting coverage of the murder of its columnist, Jamal Khashoggi, is undoubtedly unpopular in certain circles. Obviously, the National Enquirer's gotten a lot of money from the Saudi government. The National Enquirer's publisher, David Pecker, was a longtime ally of Trump. Bezos is naming Trump personally in this post.
Right. It's a very complex web of characters here.
Yeah.
And so Mr. Pecker, who owns AMI and has been a long ally of Trump for years and years. And during the campaign in 2016, we saw them run stories that were favorable to Trump, and he would go after the political opponents of Trump. And so they've had this long relationship. Now, recently, that seems to have fallen out, and the magazine hasn't really been publishing pro-Trump stories anymore as they've been cooperating with authorities. But there has been the suspicion that, that they are close. And so them targeting Bezos, who obviously the president is not much of a fan of, raised a lot of eyebrows. Now, that said, the National Enquirer has adamantly denied for a long time that they were influenced by Trump or political forces in their coverage, and they're silent tonight. And I reached out and haven't heard anything back from Mr. Howard, who wrote the story, or anyone else from the National Enquirer.
All right. Thank you very much, Oliver. And I want to make the point here, as Oliver references, David Pecker is cooperating right now in investigation, the Southern District of New York investigation into Michael Cohen, right? And all these catch and kill, they would get the stories that were bad about Trump and pay off the people and then not publish them, right? That is, he is now cooperating in that. Out front now, Stu Zakim, former SVP of Corporate Communications for American Media, Bill Kristol, longtime editor of the Weekly Standard, and Harry Sandick, former assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York. So, Stu, let me just start out very basically.
Sure.
you read this. You
Yes.
see these emails from the general counsel. I mean, it is stunning. I mean, it is like a list. Let's just go through here. I'm not going to share what the list is. People can read it themselves. A list of disgusting and inappropriate pictures that they are going to publish if there is not a statement put out, as I said, that says you have no knowledge or basis for suggesting AM's coverage was politically motivated or influenced by political forces. Are you shocked to see something like this?
No, I'm not shocked at all to see. It's part of their tactics, right? They attack. They attack whether you're a subject of their investigation or they attack to protect themselves. So to come out and threaten him like that is not unusual, because that's what they're used to doing. That's how they usually get their way.
So the way in which they're doing it, I think, is, at least for me, I'm not a lawyer, but just looking at it as a citizen and someone who edited a magazine, is pretty amazing. And two things leap out to me. They freaked out about this investigation. It's not like AMI isn't routinely in a million legal squabbles. They investigate other people, they get investigated. They're used to that, and they can do that. This, as Bezos correctly says, this statement by the lawyer of AMI is extraordinary. It does seem pretty close to extortion. It does seem, they desperately want the investigation called off. Right, that's what they would agree to do.
Right.
Why are they so scared of the investigation? What are they going to discover? That AMI takes money from the Saudis? We know that. That AMI is a kind of sleazy oproperation? I think everyone knows that.
So what are they going to discover about where all these pictures came from?
And then
secondly,
the second point, therefore, is what does the proposed AMI statement say? There was no political motivation for this. So you put those two things together, at least I do in my mind, I wonder whether Bezos' investigators are getting close to discovering a Trump-Pecker connection. That would be pretty explosive. Pecker would certainly want to cover that up. He would want the investigation. What if Trump called Pecker 2 weeks ago and said, we got to do something about who knows what? And who knows what Bezos' investigators were discovering on that. For me, nothing else would explain them going so crazy at AMI.
This is going to be a crucial question here. And this is why I bring up a longtime relationship, personal, between President Trump and David Pecker, right, who is obviously the publisher of AMI. David Pecker now cooperating with the Southern District of New York investigation into Michael Cohen and these payments.
Yep.
And Jeff Bezos mentioning Donald Trump by name very explicitly, right? Saying one person who would have an interest, and it's made it clear that they don't like the Washington Post coverage, and I own the Washington Post, is President Trump.
Yep. And the people at AMI better be very, very fortunate in their dealings with the Southern District U.S. Attorney's Office, because there is a term in their non-prosecution agreement that says you may not commit any other crimes. That list of crimes could include extortion. If somebody views this as being extortion, it's certainly not a normal business negotiation. Or if there were crimes committed in the way in which they obtained the information about Bezos, that could lead the Southern District to decide to tear up their non-prosecution agreement and charge them with whatever crimes they may have committed.
So, Stu, let me ask you, because when we go back to the timing here, you have David Pecker starts cooperating with the Southern District of New York last fall. Now, obviously, all of this imbroglio with Jeff Bezos has come to light since then. Is it possible that he's still talking to Trump, or
I wouldn't doubt it for a
favorable to
minute.
Trump, or trying to take Jeff Bezos down because Bezos' Washington Post is slamming Trump?
Well, I would say that not knowing it firsthand, but I couldn't imagine how they're not still in touch. Even when this story first broke, Trump actually applauded the Enquirer, if you remember the coverage of that.
Yeah.
So knowing how Trump welcomes people back into his home after he's thrown them away, Pecker does the same thing. And it's still an advantageous relationship for both of them, because look what we're talking about tonight.
And one thing, incidentally, I'm just speculating, of course, that the investigators could have been stumbling on or getting very close to, not stumbling, they're pretty good investigators, but getting pretty close to, is stuff that would have called into question their, I suppose, AMI's compliance with this agreement, right? Wouldn't that be something you would get very worried about if you were a corporation or if you were Mr. Pecker, and suddenly they're discovering, whoa, they're not really cooperating fully. I'm just guessing.
Absolutely. Look what happened to Paul Manafort with the special counsel when it was found that he was violating the terms of his cooperation agreement. There's nothing the government hates more than a cooperator, or in this case, a non-prosecution agreement. They didn't even make AMI take a guilty plea as an entity in the Cohen investigation into campaign finance fraud, and the reward for it is continuing to engage in misconduct. Not good.
So on Twitter, Jeff Bezos is right. The president routinely slams the Washington Post. He slammed Bezos linked to the Washington Post, and he's called him Jeff Bozo. He's relished coverage of this affair. Jeff Bozo, right? Now listen to him when he's asked about Bezos' divorce.
And what do you react to the news of Jeff Bezos' divorce and his affair?
Well, I wish him luck.
That's it? I wish him luck. It's going to be a beauty.
Okay, can I just ask you a question here? If President Trump's hands in any way end up linked to this, and we have no, Jeff Bezos is obviously making it clear that he thinks they could be, what does that mean?
It depends on the precise linkage, but there could be all sorts of things. Is he part of an extortion scheme involving these emails? Is he going to use the photos to try to obtain more favorable coverage from the Washington Post?
Yeah.
Does he?
And are these emails extortion in your view? I mean, it's a very detailed list, and then, but I won't publish them unless if you say this.
It doesn't look like a normal business negotiation, which is what the usual defense is when someone says it's extortion. You say, no, this was just business. We wanted something, they wanted something. But that's not how normal business is conducted. Did the president play any part in obtaining the images? Did they come to him maybe from a supporter who somehow is connected to the woman who's having the affair with him? I don't want to. This is all speculation.
Right. No, but these are the
but
questions.